She was falling into darkness, into fear, into silence. What was Han-san thinking? Maybe that without her, nothing would change? That there were others, with darker dreams, sweeter fears. But still, something in his gaze sparked. His silhouette flashed like lightning across the night sky. He flew, like an arrow, straight to her. So-kun felt her body breaking under the pressure of the wind. And at the same time, there was that scent. She'd smelled it before, once, long ago. And then he caught her, gently, almost tenderly. Her fall stopped in his arms. She clung to his neck, not understanding what had happened. Her eyes remained shut, but that scent the same as his, that familiar wind-like scent. She opened her eyes and met his gaze. His eyes were blazing with anger and something else, surprise maybe. Do you have, like, multiple spare lives or something? He muttered. So-kun could barely breathe, but her voice rang clear. So now, do you want to grant my request? Han-san laughed, mockingly. His eyes narrowed. If you wanted to make sure I'd remember this, congrats. You nailed it. He didn't say it out loud, but he thought, maybe that's what he wanted all along, for her to be unable to live without him. I got it, he said coldly. But this is the first and last time your little manipulations will work. If you die, everything you dreamed of will turn to sea foam. So live. He carried her back to the apartment. The silence between them buzzed with tension. Why didn't you come? She asked. I called for you. I was busy, he replied, not looking at her. There were little demons circling around you. I had to catch them one by one. He looked at her hungrily. His gaze slid over her like every flicker of emotion was a delicacy. He was holding back. Why are you crying again? He whispered. He leaned closer. His tongue brushed her tear. So sweet, he said. You really are delicious. His head dropped onto her shoulder. His breath scorched her skin. Han-san was going insane from her. He remembered the way she'd practically begged him, nearly hysterical, to devour all her nightmares, down to the very last drop. Maybe to deal with everything, he'd have to come every night. The thought drove him mad. He wasn't sure he could control himself. So-kun had already calmed down. There was hope in her voice. And now, don't you want to try? To devour my fears. He looked at her. She was like a little lamb asking a wolf for help. So naive, so open, and somehow fearless. Maybe after all these years, she'd simply grown tired of being afraid. She had nothing left to lose. So-kun looked almost happy. She was laughing, imagining how easily she might finally get a good night's sleep. Just touch me, Han-san explained. Any part of your body, while you sleep. That's the simplest way. I'll feed, and you'll rest. So-kun blushed. So all those times she had sweet dreams, he was there? And touching her. But where exactly was he touching her? Her mind started to spiral. Han-san laughed. Tonight, just hands. Like this. He held out his pinky. She took hold of it, but sleep didn't come. I can't sleep when you're looking at me like that, she whispered. Get used to it, he replied. That's how it's going to be now. So-kun smiled softly. Your hand is warm. It used to be cold. That's because I'm looking forward to feeding, he said and winked. Sweet dreams. She just held his pinky tighter. So-kun had finally fallen asleep. Her breath was even, her eyelids trembling like silk petals, and the tight line of her lips had relaxed, like a child who had just let go of tears. His gaze wandered over her face, as if he was seeing her for the first time. Until now, he had always arrived too late, when her dreams had already turned to nightmares, when the scent of fear was thick, rich, almost intoxicating. A few minutes were usually enough to quench his hunger. But now he was here from the very beginning, and strangely enough, he was glad. He leaned over her, whispering so softly it was barely audible. Now you look like a human. Finally, no longer a transparent wax doll. He reached out. His fingers hovered above her cheek, and only then did he notice. Her skin was warm and alive, and thin, like parchment that holds countless untold stories. To threaten your own life so boldly. Brave little lamb, he thought, and suddenly shuddered as he touched her. Her dreams were already taking form. Their flavor pierced through him like an electric current. So deep, so dark, so delicious. He devoured the taste like a starving shadow. His eyes flared once more, one icy blue, the other a pulsing crimson. The incubus in him had awakened completely, hungry, ancient, made to feed on emotions. He wanted more, and what if he consumed her entirely? If her dreams were this delicious, what would her soul taste like? The sweetest fruit for a demon? His fingers clenched. He already saw her body, dissolving into light. He could feel her becoming a part of him. How the silence of satiation wrapped around his consciousness. I need to stop this. He whispered to himself. He tore himself from the vision like from a trap, let go of her hand and jerked backward, sliding off the bed. Cold sweat coated his forehead. He was breathing heavily. Every inhale like teeth scraping against bone. Han San was furious. At himself. At her. At the world that had made him feel this way. He wanted it. God, how badly he wanted it. But it was unbearable. If I can't control myself, I won't be able to enjoy her dreams. He hissed into the darkness, as if it could answer. He sank to the floor, back against the wall. His gaze remained fixed on her face. So quiet. So defenseless. And at the same time, the most dangerous thing he had encountered in his endless life. Morning came. So can open her eyes. The world was blurred, soft, as if wrapped in the haze of a dream. She lay still, trying to figure out, was she still asleep or already awake? The silence felt too real. The warmth, too comforting. But this could still be a dream. Shaky, treacherous, like all her nightmares. She pinched her wrist. It hurt. This was reality. And something was different. For the first time in many years, she wasn't trapped in the grip of fear. There was no obsessive whisper in her head. Her body wasn't trembling from nocturnal terror. On the contrary, she felt light, rested, whole. Could it be? Her thought froze. Could it be I didn't have a nightmare? It seemed impossible. She sat up in bed, the blanket slipping off her shoulder. Her eyes stopped on the pillow on the floor, the very one where Han San had sat last night. Her heart clenched. Maybe he couldn't hold back and fled before doing something terrible? Maybe it was so hard for him that he had to disappear? But if that was true, then her dreams really were tempting to him? She suddenly felt something new, a wave of happiness. Strange, quiet, but sincere. Her dreams, her fears, were valuable to someone. And for the first time in her life, she wasn't afraid of that. Han San, she whispered, as if hoping he was still nearby. But only silence remained in the apartment. She quickly got ready for work. Her hair fell into place effortlessly. Clothes hugged her body like a second skin. She smiled at her reflection in the mirror, as if the world had suddenly begun to play in different colors. Her eyes sparkled. Her step was confident. In the underground garage, her manager was already waiting. Mayan turned from the car to help her with the door, and froze. So, Can? His voice was full of surprise. You're in a good mood today. She laughed, softly, lightly. Her smile was genuine. I just slept well, she replied. For the first time in years, it was true. So Can glowed. Her skin seemed to catch every ray of light, and in her eyes danced that special gleam, the one that appears only after deep, real rest. She got into the car. Good morning, Han San. So Can purred the words like a content cat. Did you sleep well? He didn't even flinch, just muttered curtly, as if brushing her off. Overate. Couldn't sleep. Mayan glanced between the two of them, confused. You're the one who said we should be friends. So Can said breezily and laughed again. So, I'm just following advice. Must have been tasty, if you overate that much. She teased the brooding Han San, trying to keep her cheerful tone. You could have invited me. I mean, for dinner. At work. So Can blossomed. She confidently flipped through scripts, joked with her manager, and laughed wholeheartedly. No one had seen her like this in ages. Colleagues whispered among themselves, astonished by her lightness, while Mayan simply smiled, watching her become herself again, that very star who could captivate anyone with just a glance. Evening draped the city in a soft blanket of dusk, slowly blurring the line between light and shadow. The elevator ascended quietly, barely humming. Han San stood silent, hands in his pockets, eyes fixed on the gray metal floor. So Can was beside him, tired but happy. Her eyes gleamed with exhaustion and contentment all at once. Thank you, she said unexpectedly, simple and sincere. He turned to her in surprise, as if not believing those words were meant for him. For the rest, she smiled, looking straight into his eyes. I can't remember the last time I felt so at ease working all day. You helped me. That means a lot to me. He froze. Her words sank deeper than she could ever imagine. Her voice shimmered with warmth, like autumn sun before evening. You just don't know the value of your dreams, he muttered, but without bitterness. Maybe, she agreed, but I know you're special, and I don't think I can be without you. Not now, but you can be without me. Han San turned away. Her words touched the darkest part of him, the one he tried so hard to hide. She didn't know who he was, didn't know what he was truly capable of, how close he came last night to breaking himself and her. If she ever found out, he thought, she would never look at me like that again, would never touch me with her voice, would never whisper, thank you. So Can, walking beside him down the quiet hallway, paused for a moment. She wanted to ask. She wanted to know, what if someone with sweeter dreams appears? Would he leave her then? But she didn't dare. She couldn't bear it if he answered truthfully. I hope you'll stay with me again tonight, she said softly, opening the door. He gave a silent nod. In the evening, at home, So Kong was greedily devouring chestnuts. One by one, hot, steamed, slightly sweet, they melted in her mouth like memories of childhood. Why were they so delicious? She sighed, glancing at the now empty bowl, imagining the scale needle betraying her tomorrow. Yes, she would definitely gain weight, but wasn't it worth it? Han Sen wouldn't arrive for another 2 hours, enough time to dive into a new script, to unfold it like an unfamiliar life she'd have to live on screen. Meanwhile, Han Sen wandered through the Twilight City, full of shadows and whispers. He still had time. Time for a snack. Time to hunt another ghost, whose nightmare he could quickly swallow. He was afraid that he wouldn't be able to control himself again, that So Kong would awaken a hunger he could never tame. The city had plenty of fears, dark, bloody, but ones like hers? Almost non-existent. His eyes glinted with predatory fire. Yes, he would find something to snack on before seeing her. So Kong glanced at the clock. The minutes dragged like thick milk. She had already gone through the script, already yawned and imagined herself curling into her pillow, but he still hadn't come. Maybe she should call out? Call him through the walls, through the night? But no! She didn't want to seem insane. That was silly. Better just to call. And then, the door handle creaked. It was him. Finally. He entered like a shadow thickening in the doorway, so intensely threatening that even the air in the room grew heavier for a moment. So Kong instantly noticed he had changed clothes. His coat smelled of night, and his eyes, of something elusive, predatory. Where were you? She asked softly, as if afraid to break something fragile between them. Han San darkened. He had hunted, because he couldn't be sure. If he came to her hungry, he might not stop in time. He might devour her completely, and he couldn't allow that. So he decided to snack on the way. But of course, he didn't tell her that. Just had a little snack, he replied shortly as always. You mean, you ate someone's dream? Her eyes widened in surprise. Where do you even do that? He shrugged, as if it was the most mundane thing. Anywhere there are people, everyone dreams. Oh, her eyes sparkled. So if you chose me, does that mean my dreams are tasty? Vivid? She smiled so sincerely that he looked away for a second. So Kong had no idea how completely she had ruined his appetite for anything else. After her, every other dream tasted bland, like a memory that had lost its flavor. Good thing you had one of those boring dreams, she said with childlike innocence. Soon you'll get to eat mine again. Her smile was so warm, so trusting, as if everything in her, heart, soul, dreams, already belonged to him. Her eyes brimmed with hope, for a peaceful tomorrow, a restful night, for someone who would stay even when the world turned hostile again. That's how the director looked at So Kong. Like a goose laying golden eggs. And Han San couldn't understand. Why wasn't she afraid? After everything she already knew about him, all the hints, the looks, the slips of the tongue, she still looked at him like this. Like he wasn't a monster. Like he was her hope. Han San glanced at the chestnut boxes. There were many, comically many. It's my dinner, So Kong explained quickly, a bit embarrassed. And it's your fault. I sleep better now, and I have an appetite. I want to live and eat. She sighed, as if confessing something deeply personal. Her eyes shone. Her voice was alive. Han San smiled, warmly, mischievously, almost kindly. Then you'll be even more delicious, he winked. Now go to sleep. Early shoot tomorrow. So Kong didn't argue. She lay on her side, her hair spreading across the pillow like a silky veil. Han San sat beside her, and she shyly reached for his hand. Their fingers intertwined, and the world fell still. The energy began to flow, soft, careful, waves of warmth. She closed her eyes. Bon appetit, my monster, she whispered with a smile. He entered her dream. As always, gently, almost tenderly. The dreams were rich, deep. Images drifted like shadows in fog. Her mother, father, familiar streets, children's laughter, and the nightmares, old, buried, choked in her subconscious like unread pages. He swallowed them all, without a trace. The next morning, on the way to the film set, Han San stepped out to buy coffee. So Kong and Saw Myong watched from the car. She warmed her hands at her sleeves, while Saw Myong gripped the steering wheel, eyes fixed on the street where girls stopped, turned, whispered. I should have gone instead, the manager grumbled. The women passing by couldn't take their eyes off the bodyguard. Their eyes sparkled. Lips murmured. He must be a celebrity. Oh my god, he's gorgeous. Unreal, seriously. So Kong watched the scene with a grin. I get it. She sighed with fake sadness. Han San returned with the coffee. He handed her one cup, the other to Saw Myung. He himself had nothing. You didn't get one for yourself? So Kong asked, surprised. I'll just have water, he replied calmly. She narrowed her eyes playfully. What? Stuffed yourself again like last night? His lips slowly curled into a sly grin. Didn't realize I had such an appetite. They arrived at the filming location. Saw Myung stayed by the car, phone pressed to his ear, nervously discussing something with someone on the other end. So Kong didn't wait, and Han San silently followed her. She walked ahead with such light, sunlit joy that it seemed she might lift off the ground at any moment. She was nearly skipping, like a girl who had just been promised something magical. Why are you so cheerful today? Han San couldn't help but ask, watching the sunlight dance on her shoulders. So Kong turned to him with that bright, unguarded smile of hers, the kind that held no trace of a tired actress or a glamorous star. Only pure happiness. I'm excited to meet someone nice, she said, her eyes sparkling. He froze. Just a moment, one heartbeat, and something inside him dropped. Not because of me, not because I helped her finally get some sleep, not because of the dream where I gathered her worries like beads into my hands. She was already moving on, hopping lightly over the cables stretched across the asphalt. And then her voice filled the space. Ivan. So Kong rushed toward a tall, enigmatic man with a camera. His presence was both delicate and confident, and his eyes, deep, like old photographs hiding more than they revealed. Han San stiffened. That photo from her apartment flashed through his mind. She had spoken of it fondly, saying it was her favorite because a friend had taken it. Was this him? The one? So Kong was speaking to Ivan warmly, easily. The way you speak only with someone who's seen you at your worst and stayed. Han San watched them, and he listened to everything around him. Someone from the staff whispered in awe nearby. I've never seen So Kong in person before. She's even more beautiful than on screen. He heard it all, saw everything, and analyzed every detail. Meanwhile, So Kong went off to change, disappeared behind a screen, and Han San didn't even notice right away how something unfamiliar and anxious was swelling in his chest. And when she returned, he nearly forgot how to breathe. She looked unearthly, in a dress that seemed made just for her. But no, it wasn't the dress that made her stunning. It was she who gave the dress meaning. The shoot began. So Kong moved like water, her gestures graceful and precise, as if she spoke not with words but with light. Han San stood aside, lost in her image. Saw Myung came up beside him. So Kong isn't just beautiful on the outside, the manager said thoughtfully. Her soul is just as real. Isn't she the most beautiful of all? Han San nodded. She is beautiful and kind, but inwardly, he thought, and her dreams, they're works of art. He couldn't take his eyes off her. In every movement, every glance, she was flawless, perfect. Ivan clicked the shutter emotionlessly, like a machine. He gave no directions, no comments, just captured moment after moment. Then, suddenly, he stepped closer. Without a word, he touched her shoulder, adjusted something on the dress, his fingers running lightly through her hair, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. So Kong didn't flinch or tense. On the contrary, she laughed softly and whispered something to him. He smiled and plucked a tiny feather that had gotten caught near her collarbone. Han San clenched his jaw. He leaned toward Saw Myung. Is that normal? Him touching her so freely. They've been friends for a long time, the manager replied, eyes still on the scene. They're close. So, being close means you can touch someone's collarbone? That's more than just fixing her hair. Saw Myung turned to him with a raised brow, clearly amused. Do you even remember how you offered to hold her hand while she slept the other night? His tone shifted, firm, with a hint of irony. Don't mess her up. So Kong might look strong, but she's fragile, like glass beneath the surface. Mess her up? How could he explain that he visits her every night, holds her hand in dreams? That he's already crossed every line just by being near her. In sleep? I can't promise something I'm not sure about, Han San replied calmly. The only thing I can promise is that I won't look at her like she's a girl. What? Saw Myung blinked. What's wrong with her? She's gorgeous. Exactly, Han San laughed. So, what am I supposed to do? Not ruin her, but also not see her as a beautiful woman? Am I supposed to fall in love with her without her ever loving me back? His eyes darted, lips pressed tight. "Sounds like it," he muttered. "That's ridiculous." Then, he stood up abruptly. "I need to grab her bag, and I've got a million other things to do." He walked off quickly, almost fleeing. Han San watched him go. He had charmed everyone even before So Kong had walked in. At first, he'd seemed like just a convenient figure. Soft, open, a little naive, the perfect subject for influence. But now I'm not so sure, Han San thought. Not sure if I still hold his mind, or if maybe he's stronger than he seems. While Han San was still wondering whether he had managed, even for a moment, to glimpse into Saw Mayan's mind, Ivan loudly announced a break. Everyone relaxed a bit and started to disperse. The photographer immediately approached Seo Kong. "You look amazing," he said warmly, with a genuine smile. He placed a hand on her shoulder, casually, as if by accident. But it wasn't the first such accident. Sometimes he'd take her hand, sometimes lean in too close, or brush a stray lock of hair from her face. Han San stood aside like an observer, but he wasn't just watching. Inside, everything was tightening, his emotions, thoughts, impulses. It infuriated him, though he couldn't quite explain why. The mystery around these people grated on him. Who were they? What were they plotting? And this photographer, too calm, too close, like a wolf in white. No growl, but something wild in his eyes. Are they even close enough to be touching all the time? The thought rang in his head. He wanted to put an end to it, but not too abruptly. That would draw attention, and she was a public figure. But one thing he knew for sure, that hand needed to be removed. He strode over, footsteps sharp, eyes cold. Everyone around them paused, sensing the shift in energy. Han San gently took Ivan's hand, the one resting on Seo Kang's shoulder, and, in a calm, steady voice, eerily composed, said, "Due to her profession, touches like this from men can cause trouble, especially in front of the staff." Ivan held his gaze, calm, still, like quiet water hiding its depths. Then, with a subtle nod, he replied, "I'm just a professional photographer. It's my job." The tension dissolved into the air. Someone coughed awkwardly. Others looked away, and everyone pretended nothing had happened. Evening had already settled by the time Saw Mayan dropped them off at the apartment. Before driving off, he simply wished them a good night and disappeared around the corner, leaving Han San and Seo Kong alone in the soft glow of a streetlight. Seo Kong turned to him sharply. Her eyes burned with hurt. "You crossed a line today," she said, cold and clear like glass cracking. Han San faltered. He thought he had done the right thing. He was just protecting her. "I was only doing my job," he said quietly, almost defensively. "Your job?" Her voice turned sharper. "Didn't you feel it? It was too much." If anyone else had been in Ivan's place, they would have quit on the spot. But Ivan is my friend. He stayed quiet. "You acted like you own me, not like you're my bodyguard." Her anger wasn't fiery. It was tired, the kind that came from deep disappointment. "I don't want to see you tonight. Go to your room," she said, final and firm. A full stop. The door closed in front of him, abrupt and dry, cutting off everything that had been before. Later, in her bedroom, as the streetlight skimmed across the ceiling, Seo Kong lay on her back, staring into the dark. Her thoughts refused to let her sleep. Maybe she had overreacted. She had hoped that without nightmares she'd feel free. But was it really so? No, she hadn't overreacted. He'd been interfering more and more in her work, even in the smallest things. At the same time, Han San returned to his apartment, shrouded in the weight of silence. He couldn't shake the tension that clung to the air. He had no right to tell her everything he knew. Not yet. The ones who had destroyed her life might be closer than she thought. They might even be people she trusted most. He stepped into the shower. Hot water ran down his shoulders, washing away the day, but not the guilt. If he tried to explain, she might turn against him. And then what? He wouldn't be able to stay near her. He couldn't feed on her nightmares anymore. And that would mean all these 20 years of waiting had been for nothing. And more than that, what was happening to her? What was changing? For the first time, he wasn't sure of his own strength. Didn't know how to untangle the knot he found himself trapped in. One thing was clear. Tomorrow, he would apologize, at least for nearly ruining her comeback. For the first time, he felt like an outsider. It was strange, bitter, and tonight he would go hungry. Meanwhile, in her bathroom, Seo Kong slowly lathered her shoulders. Thoughts clung to her mind like steam to the mirror. She replayed his words in her head. "I was worried," he had said. But worried about what exactly? That Ivan was a nightmare? That he was trying to consume her? But Ivan was a normal person. They'd known each other for years. How could Han San think that? And then he had asked, what if all this time, He created something dark inside you, and that became the source of your nightmares. Nonsense. If he truly believed that, why hadn't he stopped Ivan earlier? It was after that she told him not to come tonight. She remembered the look in his eyes, like someone had poured a bucket of cold water over him. She'd never seen him like that before.
Why?
What did it mean? And why did that thought make it even harder to sleep? Was it because he wouldn't eat tonight? She knew Han-san never did things without reason. Deep down, on a level beyond words, she sensed that he acted from instinct, not whim. But still, the thought that Ivan could be a nightmare, it was absurd. Absurd and painful. That night, she decided she wouldn't sleep. She had to hold out, endure. Otherwise, the void again, the nightmares, the loneliness. But an hour later, her body betrayed her. She lay curled on the bed, clutching a pillow, as exhaustion claimed its victory. If only I'd known it would be this hard, I wouldn't have sent him away, she thought, already half asleep. It's so easy to get used to something good, to protection, to sleeping without a fight. She was angry at herself. It seemed like she was the only one losing here. But Han-san really had interfered in her work. Then again, he could be replaced, but she had no one else. And that thought, that she could be replaced, pressed on her chest like a stone. Maybe I should try to sleep after all. The thought flashed. She called out softly. Han-san, no response. Han-san, a bit louder. The night was silent. She sat up, glancing nervously into the dark. Han-san. I'm not deaf, came a familiar voice from the shadows. Seo Kong jumped, screamed, and clapped a hand over her mouth. Why the hell are you sneaking up like that? She whispered, then shouted. You could have said something. Turned on a light. Coughed anything. You should have turned on the light first before calling me, he replied, with an unfazed smile. And you shouldn't. I don't know, be so unpredictable. He looked at her gently, almost teasingly, and said with a glint in his eye, Too many demands, lady. She wanted to snap back, something witty and sharp, but she froze, staring at his face. He'd changed clothes again.
Clean, neat.
And he no longer looked so grim. Did he go somewhere?
Eat.
Or is he only here because I called? And not because he wanted to? Her thoughts fluttered like trapped birds. This is for you, he said, handing her a small box. A sweet, warm scent rose from it, like something homemade. Seo Kang's eyes lit up. What is it? It smells amazing. Dessert, Han-san said with a soft smile. They say women love sweets. It helps lift the mood. And today I decided your mood should be better. I didn't mean to interfere at the studio. Her eyes sparkled as she opened the box. Inside was a small, elegant dessert, a work of art. So you stood in line for this, to apologize? And that's why you didn't come right away? Not because you went to eat someone's dream? He nodded. I really like it, she whispered. Why does this make me so happy? He wondered. So, she's not mad anymore? Really? Maybe next time I'll just stock up on chocolate. For emergency emotional disasters, Seo Kong smiled. But inside, she was still tangled. Joy mixed with unease. Because no matter what, she couldn't keep him with her forever. But going back to the life haunted by nightmares? Never again. The only option was to keep things good between them, mutually beneficial. Want some? She asked, pushing the dessert closer. He smiled quietly and shook his head. Just watching you eat is enough for me. She looked at him with something close to tenderness. Han-san, stay with me tonight, please.